Going live right now with John Lee Dumas Entrepreneur on Fire podcast. So we're going to be talking about blockchain, just stole the music. Hey, how's it going? Fantastic. I wish I could be that right there in Puerto Rico. Chima Walla. Yes, that's correct. Sounds terrific. I sure am. None at all. Yes. Sounds good. Hey, what's up, Fire Nation? I'm super excited to be here to share some music and blockchain technology masterclass with you guys. The one thing that most people don't know about me is I'm actually a retired Army veteran. So I served in the Army for 15 years and I retired as a finance officer captain. It certainly is. Blockchain is on the news as of late. As a matter of fact, most people probably watching the stock market go down right now also heard about something that's going up, and it's called Bitcoin. So that's just not what blockchain holds. Blockchain for artists, music industry professionals, and even folks that are selling merchandise holds the key to what's called smart contracts, which is a way to transact and have visibility as a form of a ledger. So, as a matter of fact, that is happening right now, but it hasn't taken off to the extent that I foresee it going to, and that's why we're holding this blockchain just stole the music note masterclass just to educate folks and let them know the possibilities that blockchain presents to them. That's fantastic. So, blockchain basically what it is, as you know, we're heading into what's called the Internet Web 4.0. It's a way to have digital certificates when computers communicate, basically. And the level of security that you put into blockchain is going to determine to what extent the computers communicate. And then within that backbone, you can then have applications that are layered with that blockchain. And that's why I'm specifically focused on something called smart contracts. Basically, it's like you doing contracts between two parties, but in this case, you have variables that's going to determine what would happen if a certain transaction takes place. So that's kind of general term what blockchain is and what the future is for the music industry in that regard. Great. Yes, tokenization is basically solving a problem and then turning that into something that people could participate in. For example, if you wanted to solve a problem that's in terms of royalties, say for example, you have music on Spotify and it plays, and you get streaming royalties. However, it takes a while for you to actually get paid that royalty. That's where tokenization can come into place, where you write a smart contract that's tied within an actual token that's a coin. So whenever people listen to the music and you earn royalties, it would then trigger a payment using that coin as a payment platform. People that are actually doing this right now are not that many. There's a company by the name of Vets, and that particular company actually is, when I did a little research, is run by the legacy music industry. And what I'm trying to get most independent artists to realize is that you don't necessarily have to go with the traditional record companies to leverage blockchain and also be independent in today's music industry. I'm also working on a project called Pod Bum Coin. That's essentially me trying to tokenize using blockchain to help artists become more independent. So that's kind of an example, a broad-based example, 30,000 feet. But in with respect to other industries, say I wanted to solve a problem. So, for example, we live here in the Tampa Bay area in Florida, and there's a lot of congestion with respect to traffic. Say I wanted to solve a problem that would enable people to actually, you know, buy into, say, a coin that's tokenized that gives them an incentive to maybe ride public transportation. I would set up a tokenized coin and using the blockchain ecosystem. Now, what I would like to explain is there's two different ways you can develop coins within blockchain using different platforms. So most people that I know use the Ethereum program, and it's this is free to develop applications and coins. And again, like I started the introduction with talking about Bitcoin. Bitcoin just hit 8,000, believe it or not, per share. So people can develop using Bitcoin, but for the most blockchains and tokenized platforms that I see there under the coins, they're using the Ethereum system to do it. Fantastic question. As a matter of fact, the best way for artists to take full advantage of this ecosystem that's pretty much at its infancy is to start off by creating a wallet, a digital wallet. The reason I say that's the first thing to do is it will get them comfortable with the whole blockchain and how the ledger actually works. So when I say ledger, it's not just about royalties, but it's very transparent. For example, if you were to cash a check, and it takes a while for you to bounce your checkbook, and your checkbook typically isn't visible, nor is that checkbook visible to outsiders. But with blockchain, artists can have a wallet, utilize the actual address that's within that wallet to start transferring digital currencies back and forth. That gets them comfortable with the whole idea of using blockchain and e-currencies, basically. The next step, and what I would recommend that artists do right away, is to set up an online platform, even an entrepreneur, that's where they could actually sell their digital music. So, for example, I kind of deal with Shopify a little bit. You go on Shopify, say you record a track, you put that track up there, and you have a way to collect payments that's tied to, say, a wallet, Coinbase. Then what could typically happen with, if your fans come out there and make purchases, that transaction will then be utilize the ledger system to actually pay and receive your money. The reason I say Shopify is one of the problems that I've been very concerned about is how long it takes to actually get paid when you actually sell a service or a physical product. And I'm not plugging Shopify, but it takes typically days for that to happen compared to the other platforms that are out there. So using that scenario, I can foresee a future where artists would completely bypass the traditional stores or the traditional streaming platforms in terms of actually having their music and their merchandise being put out there for sales, and also how fast they could get paid. So I foresee a future where the record companies are not going to be as powerful as they are right now. Because if you really think about it, most of the creation, distribution, and promotion of music is done on a global scale. It's about five record companies that pretty much, I don't want to call it a monopoly, but for all intensive purposes, that's what it is. Because if you look at how digital music has trended over the last 10 to 15 years, the Silicon Valley companies that came into the space had to sign contracts with the big record companies. And so that's why you have a royalty system that's what I call Jurassic. It's really old and it's ripe for disruption. And I think that's what blockchain, cryptocurrency, and smart contracts is going to do for artists going forward. That's a great call to action. What I would encourage a lot of artists, labels do right now is to actually somewhere within their website or e-commerce platforms or their social media, they should have maybe a blog or something talking about blockchain, and then use the hashtag cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum to get people to also recognize that you're actually interested in these particular innovative technologies. After having that out there, what's going to happen is when people start searching for their music or trying to engage with them through social media, they're going to start popping up as being relevant. And then the other thing they need to do is what I encourage them to do first is research companies that is going to enable them to develop either a token or their own personal wallet. Personally, what I did was I reached out to it's a software that I kind of used to build my first token. I learned how to create, computer code by just getting out there and looking for knowledgeable folks that can share the information with you. And as a matter of fact, first time I heard about blockchain was through a meetup. So I went to a meetup, a local meetup, and people were talking about blockchain and cryptocurrency, and I started thinking about how myself as an artist can leverage this technology. And it's taken me a year and a half to actually understand and also incrementally implement what's actually going on. So I highly encourage folks to get out there on social media, on their e-commerce platforms, and start talking about blockchain, and then go out there and figure out who the key influencers or local folks around their neighborhood or city, towns are when it comes to blockchain and cryptocurrency. Join some meetup groups, meet some folks, and actually take incremental steps to develop your platform. I significantly doubt that royalties in the blockchain era have reached parity. By that I mean, if you look at 20 years ago, when an artist actually sells music, it takes between 6 months to a year to actually see your royalty check. But in this era, you have technologies such as smart contract that can actually program and pay artists, bands, and even record labels their share of royalties. Okay, and I'll give you an example. Um, about 20 years ago, there was a company called ARC, and the royalties that they were trying to get record companies to sign up for was something called home taping royalties, and that was basically, you remember when they had cassette tapes, when you, yeah, so if you recorded something at home and copied your cassette tapes, the artists weren't getting paid any royalties. So this company ARC is based in the Virginia area, developed, actually they lobbied and had Congress pass an act that will allow home taping royalties. And my company, Hangout Recordings, was part of the uh, initial signatories. So I just got something in the mail, email today, telling me to validate my royalties on an international basis, so they could go ahead and pay me royalties for the songs that I've written. So that's still, in my view, an old way of implementing royalty payments. Perhaps a company such as ARC could actually use smart contracts that's tied to the record companies and the artists that are signatories to this particular act. And then when the songs get played, they might have some kind of a digital watermark that would then trigger a smart contract to pay those folks their royalties. So this is the future that I'm talking about when it comes to royalty payments, and how blockchain can actually not just change and disrupt the industry, but also allow artists the creative freedom to create music and continue to share something with the world. It's interesting that you mentioned that. Th- this is how I actually got into the whole digital space, is by podcasting. Myself as an artist, I was helping other artists create podcasts. I was living in Los Angeles at that time, trying to quote unquote break into the record industry, but that was easier said than done. So what I started doing was picking up alternative skills that would enable me to stand out. And one of those skills was learning how to podcast. So if an artist say releases a track, but they don't have the sufficient wherewithal to promote it, and because it costs a lot of money to do the marketing and promotion. One of the best ways I think that I've seen that actually works, because I had teamed with a company called Sonic Bids, and I did a podcast series for artists there, is to actually release the songs as a podcast and have maybe a podcast host do a DJ mix with most of those songs where it's released, because then a lot of listeners looking for new songs can actually discover this new artist through podcasts. And then within the podcast show notes, you can actually have a link that then that's tied directly, say, to the store where the consumers can actually buy the music. And also, one thing I would like to mention is I just released a book. It's called this secret sauce behind podcasting. And what it is just me getting out there trying to help people discover how to podcast on their own. And that book is available on Amazon. Terrific. So the one thing I would like Fire Nation to get from this whole masterclass is that you, as an entrepreneur or somebody that's thinking about starting a business, have the power to actually make it happen. In other words, you're going to have some naysayers that will look at new technologies such as blockchain, and they will tell you why it's so risky and why it's not quite there yet for you to take action. But I'm here to let you know that it's within you. You got to kind of believe in yourself, and then go ahead and take action. If you want to get more information about what I'm working on, you can just follow me on Instagram at Podbum. That's Podbum. You can check out podbum.com and get some more information, and also like follow me on Twitter at Podbum.